We're here on Split the Defense. I'm Webby with CP and Minnesota Wild writer for Inside the Rink, Mikki Tuohy. We are here to talk about the transaction between the Minnesota Wild and the Leafs on deadline day. Welcome back, Mikki. Thanks for joining us. Happy trade deadline day.
Hi, thanks for having me. It wasn't a super happy deadline day for us, but you're getting a good guy from Minnesota. So I'm excited to talk about him.
Yeah, that's great to hear off the top for sure.
So the Minnesota Wild received a 2026 fourth-round pick and 21-year-old Marley Dmitry Ovchinnikov, who I actually really like. And the Leafs received 24-year-old RFA Connor Dewar. He was drafted 92nd overall in 2018. He's played 173 NHL games. This year, he's got 10 goals, 4 assists, and averaging 11 minutes and 17 seconds in ice time for the Wild. So we're dying to know about this guy, Mikki. Hopefully you can tell us all about him. What are the Leafs getting in Dewar, and what would you say is his best skill?
His best skill overall, he is great at penalty killing. He is out there just grinding. And what's really cool is he has this kind of ability to create shorthanded chances. I think last year he had like 2 or 3 shorthanded goals. He's also set up a couple, not that they always score, but they at least get it out all the way down the ice. So he is really great at that. He's also we call him Dewey 2 because we had Dewey 1 and Dewey 2, who are now both gone off of Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's been rough. But Dewar, just off the ice, he's a really cool guy. He's very quiet, very soft-spoken. But he's got this humor, like an undercurrent of humor, maybe a little sarcastic. He's just, again, we're sad to have him leave. So
like, just, this is off script, but you mentioned like he kind of like he generates offense off the penalty kill. Like, is he like a shooter, or is he kind of more of a playmaker? Or is he just a guy that like kind of tries to jam it in the net?
It depends on the situation. If he sees a chance and to get that puck, and he's the only one, like, no one else is close enough to really get in there, he will go ahead and shoot it. Like, he's not going to wait. But if there's someone next to him, there's been a couple times where if he can get a 2-on-1, he will give it to someone else. He would rather kind of make a play. So it kind of get a little of both.
All right, cool. I have to say, like, I actually know nothing about this guy. So I've heard a little bit that he's a centerman. I've heard a little bit that he plays the wing. What's the answer?
He has usually been a center for us, but yeah, he can also play the wing. He's a little bit smaller in size, but he is not afraid to be physical. He is not afraid to get in there, and he won't quite get to dropping the mitts with anybody, but he'll be in a scrum very willingly. So he's just a good, like, physical presence, even if it's not really big physical.
That's good. So what type of players did you notice him have success with on the Wild? More playmaking, more forechecking type players? And do you know anybody that he didn't work well with or did work well with specifically there?
Well, a few guys that he worked really well with were Brandon Duhaime. They were the Deweys. They kind of were in Iowa together on our AHL team, moved up and have kind of been on the fourth line. They also fit in. Like, he has Mason Shaw. So he's kind of good with very like grinding. Like, they will get out there and they will just push it out, and try and get it into the offensive zone. So he's very good and very, like, persistent.
Nice. I mean, we ideally want him on our fourth line, I think. Like, that's kind of the spot that's open. He actually kind of has some competition, I think. So it'll be interesting to see, like, what, who in that fourth line he actually ends up with. But so he's 5'10", 180. But like to me, that's like an undersized player. But like, so you're saying he like plays over that size?
Oh, for sure. Like, again, he's not afraid to get right into a scrum or get into a board battle. He will, he's not going to hang back. He plays bigger than he looks, I would say.
Oh, we like to hear that. There's so many things you've said here just in the last 5 minutes that we love. We're looking forward to seeing Connor Dewar here on our fourth line. I think he's going to fit in quite well. He's got 10 goals this year, and that's more than half our bottom six and
Most
all of our
fourth
defensemen. So most fourth liners. So yeah, I think he's going to get a good shot here in the end of the season. But the number one measuring stick to kind of gauge a trade is, are Minnesota Wild fans upset to lose this guy?
I think vibes wise, yes. On the ice, I think we have more prospects coming up from our AHL team. We actually have a Russian prospect who is probably landing in the United States anytime now, like literally any minute. So we have guys coming in that can take the spot and hopefully slide in very easily. But I think we will miss him.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting pickup to me. Like, it's a, to me, not necessarily a deadline move for Toronto as much as like he's an RFA and like he's going to be controllable going into next year. So I'm really excited just to see like any player that's like plays above their size, gets in there, like I love, right? So yeah, just excited to see like how he clicks and, you know, hopefully in a long-term situation, his age kind of suits us, right? Versus Minnesota, like, you know, you'd rather get someone in who's, you know, has more to be discovered type of an idea, right?
Yeah. And he's worked really hard to get where he is. He grew up in the PA, and he is actually has Indigenous background. He's from the Métis tribe. So he's done some things here in Minnesota to connect with the like Indigenous groups in the Twin Cities and, you know, further out state. And so that's been really cool to see him off ice be involved in that.
That's awesome. So 10 goals this year. He does have a bit of a scoring touch. You said he scores shorthanded goals. Are a couple of those on the shorthanded? Does he score on 5-on-5? He doesn't get any power play time in Minnesota, does he?
No power play time. I think this year he's only had maybe 1 or 2 shorthanded goals. He did have a game that he had a hat trick in. Which
okay. So he's got that in him.
He can do it. And he was laughing afterwards because he's like, everyone's kind of like so amazed. And I'm just like, you know, yeah, I can score, you guys. So, I mean, he does have that ability, even if that's not like his number one top kind of priority.
Yeah. Right. Well, he looks like a pretty well-rounded player. He's only 24 years old. If he's responsible defensively and he's learning how to fill the net now, he could be a very useful player. He's a RFA at the end of the season. So, sorry, CP, to cut you off there, but how do you feel about a 4th-round pick for him?
Yeah, I don't like. For me, it's always hard to go by draft picks because the Wild tend to draft pretty well, even in later rounds. You know, we always come back to the fact that Kirill Kaprizov was drafted in the 5th round. Yeah. You know, and
as if
absolute superstar.
Good Lord.
I know it's 1 in a million. You know that happens, but so for me, it's not quite as big of a measuring stick, I guess.
Right. I mean, all the best teams like become great teams because they draft deep. Like I feel like that's why Tampa's a good team, is because like a lot of their players came from later rounds, right? They don't necessarily need a first. So like that's a important thing to have in your team. So good to have faith. I actually thought you were going to say something. I don't know much about Minnesota based on just me not knowing this player, right? So yeah, good to hear that like Minnesota's turning it around. I like a rebuild team, so
yeah. And I mean, the big thing in Minnesota is we've really been working on, they did not want to do a complete rebuild. So they're we're in this weird space where they're still trying to be competitive because, I mean, could we make the playoffs right now? It's possible. Will they? It's not likely, but they still want to be competitive at the same time. So, yeah, we're just in this really weird stage.
Right. A little bit like Calgary. Like it'd be funny if Calgary's in this full sell and then they end up making the playoffs over Vegas. Maybe that'd be cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, Mikki, we can't thank you enough for coming on here and talking to us about the Connor Dewar acquisition for the Leafs. We're all looking forward to seeing him in action. I'm sure he'll be there for the game on Saturday. We'll have to have you back on again soon. That's it for now on Split the Defense. Thanks everybody for watching. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.